In today's video, I want to talk to you about my cameras that I've been using in 2020 and the future of my cameras. Hey everybody, Kwame here, back in with another video, and this is a different video than I was originally going to make because I wanted to talk about the differences, the main differences I've seen with the A7 II versus the A6100. These are the two Sony cameras that I own, and really for the foreseeable future, these are the two cameras that I will be using for a long time, along with the Panasonic G9, which I'm filming on. But these two cameras have really changed the way I shoot pictures and even video. And this channel is all about helping us create the best image, just be better content creators, especially documenting our families and our lives. You don't have to be a professional photographer or anything like that. So who are these cameras for? So obviously the A7 II is an older camera that at the time it was released was a really high-end camera, and even 5 years later this camera is still a great camera. Like, I'm getting amazing images out of this camera, especially paired with this lens from Tamron, the 28-200. I absolutely love this kit. I love this camera. Some days, if we're going out for like a long hike or drive up in the mountains, I'll put a battery pack on here. But most of the time, I'm using it like this, just one hand using the camera, the lens here. It's what's nice about this lens, and if you haven't seen the review, I will leave a link to the review of this lens. What's nice about it is, you're getting a good amount of zoom with this lens. It doesn't have a lot of, I don't have to crank and crank and crank to get it to, to turn. And what I love is that it can work on both cameras, right? So if I need a little bit more reach, I can put on the A6100, and it gives me like almost a little over a 300 millimeter equivalent on the Sony A7 II. However, the pictures I get, just the detail and the quality of images you get from the A7 II is unbelievable. It's 24 megapixels, which is, I think, good enough. I've thought about the A7 II, but every time I think about that camera, I think, what am I really going to do with the extra pixels? Maybe crop in a little bit, but I think I have a solution for that. But the images you get off this camera is just incredible. And this is the only lens. Actually, I have one other lens. I have the Samyang 24 millimeter lens. That's the only lens I have. The two lenses I have for this. I got rid of all my other lenses. So I have this lens, I have that 24. It's a f2.8. So if I need something like indoors or just hanging around, I can throw that lens on either one of these cameras. Again, low light performance. If we go out, we do a lot of bike riding after we're done with school and work and stuff like that, and it's usually a little dark when we are leaving the state park that we go to. But even in lower light, when the sun is setting and there's wildlife around, I can still get really good pictures. Or early morning, again, wildlife pictures, really good with this camera. You don't have to push the ISO. And again, this is a 5-year-old camera. It's not new. There are obviously 2 or 3 other cameras that have come out since then, and it's, they have better like autofocus, better eye tracking, all that kind of stuff. But for me, this camera is really good, and I'm still loving it. Like, I'm not interested in getting a new camera at all anytime soon. Now, the A6100 and this lens, this is the 18-105. So this lens and the 16-55 kit lens are the only two lenses I have for this camera. This 18-105 gives you the most versatility for the A6100. Now this could be A6100, A6300, 6400, like all their A6000 line. I'm pretty much talking about all those cameras. Maybe not the A6600 because it does have a few more features that this camera doesn't have. But this is an entry-level camera, right? And it's phenomenal. This is the camera and lens that I'm more than likely heading out with. even if we went up last weekend to the mountains, and I just brought this camera and lens. I mean, it's not the smallest thing in the world, but it was great from, if we wanted to flip the screen up and then do a group picture of the three of us together, we were able to do that, able to zoom in and get some nice landscape pictures. The autofocus on this camera is the best out of the three cameras that I have. The eye autofocus for humans or animals is superb, especially if you're shooting pictures of, like in my case, deer, bison, even some birds. The fact they can focus on the eye so quickly and you can snap off a few pictures, unbelievable. I'm really, really shocked at how well this A6100 is. I'm really shocked at how well it's worked out for me, excuse me. So, when I'm talking about comparing them like versus, it's not really like a one is better than the other. The way that I've been using these cameras has been pretty interesting, right? So my A7, the Sony A7 II, this is strictly a photography camera. Now, the great part is it can do video, right? It does have facial recognition for video. So if in a pinch I need to use this as a B camera or something, like, it's really simple to do and it looks phenomenal. It's a full frame camera. It looks phenomenal. The only problem that this camera has is that it doesn't, like, if you have the face priority on or face detection on, it doesn't autofocus at all. So if I put something up to the, like here, if I put this up to the camera here, the Panasonic G9, it will, let's go little buddy, at some point it will refocus. There you go. So it will refocus on this, right? Even though it's trying to find my face, it's going to refocus on the camera. Same with the A6100, does that phenomenally. It does that even better than the Panasonic G9. Unfortunately, this one doesn't do that. And I could take off face detection, but then, you're in a different situation where you're manually having to keep the focus on the face. But I don't really use this camera for that. It's strictly for photography, right? Especially with this 28 to 200 millimeter lens. This is my go-to photography lens. Now, the Panasonic G9 that I'm using, that's my go-to video camera. So right now, unfortunately, things still haven't come back. Like, I'm not doing a lot of client video work. I have talked to a couple people, and that might be changing here shortly, but I'm using it, primarily for these videos here. And it's great. Like, I love the look of the video I get out of here. Again, this thing can shoot 4K. I don't even shoot 4K. I think the Panasonic G9 is a camera that I can personally use for another 3, 4, maybe 5 years. It's going to stay with me for a long time as a video camera. However, it can shoot pretty good pictures too. So in a pinch, if I needed to, I can always use it as a backup photography camera. But now you have the A6100. And to me, this is the perfect camera that sits in the middle of these two. Right? It does a great job at photography. It does a great job at video. And I can use it as an A camera, but I'm pretty much using it as a B camera to both of these cameras, right? So if I'm shooting video, and again, when client work starts up again, the A6100, A6400, A6600, I would, if you're looking to get into video or anything like that, you really want to take the next step up from like a cell phone and get better video or make YouTube videos, you can't go wrong with the A6100. It's the cheapest entry-level Aps-C camera that they have, and I think it's phenomenal. Now, I put this little thumb grip on here. This is for Fuji cameras, but that was the one thing I didn't like about this, is it didn't have a place to comfortably rest my thumb. With this thumb grip, I can easily shoot pictures or video with one hand in a pinch. For pictures, this thing is great. Now, it doesn't have image stabilization, so you do need to use lenses that have that built in. The Tamron does not have image stabilization built in, so when I do use it on here, I try to use it in a situation where I can hand hold it, you know, and it won't look too bad. But this is the camera when we're just hanging out in the house or going on bike rides, things like that. This is the camera that I'm 90% of the time taking, which was interesting because I got it and I was thinking, okay, if I don't really like the camera, I'm not really using it, I'll return it. But now, I think, 3 months later, something like that, I'm using this camera way more than I'm using my A7 II. Not to say that I'm going to get rid of this camera anytime soon. Anytime we go to the mountains, or we're doing like fall colors, or right now, there's a bunch of eagles that will be spending the winter at one of the local lakes here. So I have projects that I'm going to be using this camera for. However, if you're not like that, if you're someone who's, you know, not just, but if you're someone who's mainly taking pictures of family, vacations, and things like that, the A6100 with this 18-105 lens, again, it's a bigger lens. I'm not going to lie and say it's not. But with this lens, this camera, I think you can easily use this for, you know, years to come. And if you want to pair it with like a Sigma has a 16mm wide angle lens, or like they have a 35mm lens, which is a little bit smaller, and they're both like 1.8 or 1.5, I think, I can't remember, but they're, you know, a lower aperture. You could pair that with, you know, one camera body, two lenses. I would say this 18-105. The reason why I like this lens is for the f4, like the constant f4. They do have an 18-135, which is like a 3.5 to either 5.6 or 6.3. I can't remember. You know, yes, it would probably be fine. I have never used that lens, but this 18-105 f4 lens, I'm absolutely in love with this lens, this camera. I actually did do a professional shoot the other day, some lifestyle pictures for a client, and I brought this lens and camera, and I did have this one just in case, you know, I couldn't get the shots I needed with A6100. I did bring the A7 II. However, I never used the A7 II. I used the A6100 the whole time, and it was phenomenal. You know, I used to suggest the Panasonic G9 for anyone getting into photography and video, like anyone who was in that space where they wanted to upgrade from their cell phone to get better pictures with interchangeable lenses. But I'm really starting to lean towards the Sony Aps-C line. Now, there is a little hiccup with that because they released a new camera that is the size of the A6100 or A6400. I think it's more like the A6600, like it's that size, but it's a full frame camera. So what's the future of Sony's Aps-C line? Who knows? But the reality is, you know, these cameras, any camera within, I'd say from like at where we are right now in 2020, any camera from the last 5 years, you're gonna get really good pictures, at least from. If you're looking for video, you know, the A6100 is a great choice, and I think it's actually cheaper than the Panasonic G9. And the reason why I'm looking and suggesting the A6100 over the G9 is the Micro Four Thirds lenses, they're not cheap. And, you know, people sometimes think just because it's a different system, it's not full frame, that the lenses will be a little bit cheaper, but they're really not. Like, there's a 100 to 400 Panasonic lens that I've been wanting to get for a while now, and that lens is over $1,200. You can get a full frame Sigma 100 to 400 lens for Sony, and that's under $1,000. And so where I was saying, you know, this 28 to 200 is good, but there's times where I need a little bit more reach. That's the lens. Like, that lens is something I'm thinking about getting. And what I really like about that lens And this system that I've got now with the A7 II and the A6100 is that they can share lenses. So if, I keep the 100 to 400 on this lens, put the 28 to 200 on this camera, put the 28 to 200 on this camera, and then if I need a little extra reach or anything like that, I can always swap lenses, and now I'm getting almost a 500 millimeter equivalent, at the longest focal length on the A6100. So there you have it. It's not really a versus. This is more like, how am I using these two cameras? And for me, they work out really well. I've taken them on one trip where I've used them at the same time. I don't think you have to do that. If you're just starting out and you're someone who, again, upgrading from either a point and shoot camera or your cell phone, the A6100 with this 18-105 is not a new lens. You can get it used. I got mine used, so save a couple dollars. It's going to be fantastic. You can even get the bundle. So I picked this up with a bundle of the 16-55 and then the 50-210 lens. And really, that 50-210, that lens is really, really good. I think I talked about it before. I will leave a link down to that video. It's a really good lens. It really surprised me at how well that lens performed. So just because it's a kit lens, I wouldn't have any worries about using it. However, I just, for someone who does more video work and who, at some point will do more video work, this 18-105 is perfect, especially for a B camera paired with my Panasonic G9. So there you guys have it. Those are my, I guess this is maybe a long-term review, a more detailed review of how I use, not even a review, this is just how I use these two cameras. And, I've actually got rid of all my other lenses. So I only have 6 lenses now, 2 lenses for each camera. I have the I think this is like a 12-60 on, the 12-60 for the Panasonic G9, and then I have a 25 millimeter, which is like equivalent to a 50 millimeter lens. This Tamron lens for the A7 II with the Sigma, with the Samyang lens also. Then I have the 18-105 for the A6100, and then the kit lens, the 16-55. And the reason why I keep that kit lens is when I want to go ultra light, I can bring this camera, that kit lens, I can flip up the screen, we can do, group pictures of each other. It's almost like having a Fuji X100 like one of those X100 cameras. I really like that idea. Something I've also been doing is using the Samyang lens on here and shooting in black and white. And with that f2 lens, it's equivalent to like a 36 millimeter lens full frame. So it's a really amazing view. And it's something I really haven't shot before, but for everyday family life, it's actually really cool. And in September, I shot a lot of black and white JPEGs like that. So just out of the camera, black and white. I didn't shoot a raw image with it. I just shot straight black and white, and it was a really good exercise to do. So there you have it. That's how I'm using these 2 lenses, actually these 3 lenses. Thank you guys as always for watching this video. I will have links up to everything that I've talked about today. It does help a lot if you guys do use those links. They are affiliate links to Amazon, but it does help because a small channel like myself, I don't get sponsored. I have to buy my own things. So if you do purchase anything like that, I really appreciate it. A few of you have actually purchased cameras and lenses using my links. I really appreciate that, you guys. All right, I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye bye.